Ladies and gentlemen, in just a moment, the family is going to enter the sanctuary. Kindly ask everyone to take a moment to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off, or at least silenced, so it doesn't disturb the sacred funeral ceremony. When the family comes in, we'll ask everyone to rise and stand in place, then we'll be seated as one community. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome those of you who are joining us online. We're going to begin the funeral service of Judy Bederman. Rabbi Evan Moffitt, Cantor J. O'Brien, Rabbi Lisa Green will be officiating. Just as a last and gentle reminder, please be sure your phones have been turned off. At the end of the service, the pallbearers will come forward, will escort Judith to the hearse. For those of you who are going to the cemetery, please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker to place on the right-hand side of your windshield. Have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, we will be providing a car in the back of the procession to keep cars from entering the procession. Please use your horn liberally as you're going through the intersections. Please do not speak or text on your cellular phone while driving to a cemetery. The Shiva will be at the Bederman residence at 274 Hastings Avenue in Highland Park. We'll be together today following the interment and Saturday beginning at 6 p.m. Memorial contributions to the family synagogue would be appreciated. That information is here. The interment service will be at Memorial Park Cemetery in Skokie.
Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey. From childhood to maturity and youth to age. from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, till looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey, sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. These words, which were penned by Rabbi Alvin Fine, really reveal to us the Jewish philosophy of life and of death. They tell us that we come here in grief, profound grief. But we also come here as much as we can with a measure of gratefulness. Grateful that God blessed the world with the life of Judy Bederman. We'll continue now with the words of the 23rd Psalm. If you know them, please feel free to join me. We'll read them together in English, and then Cantor O'Brien will chant them in Hebrew. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Adonai roi lo echsar Bihino de sheyarbitzeni Alemei menuchot yenach aleini Nafshi yeshovei Yancheni b'magelei tzedek Yancheni b'magelei tzedek Leman shemo Gam ki yeilech megel tzalmave Lo ira raki atayimodi Shivtecha umishantecha Hey Mayenochamuni Taharoch lefanai Shulchan Shantam Hashem en Roshi, Kosi Revaya. Achtom Aches Erifuni, Kol Yemei Chayai, Kol Yemei Chayai, Vishavti Bebeit Adonai, Leorech Yomim. Adonai roi loechzah. Adonai roi loechzah.
We continue with words of the psalmist, Psalm 90. Before I read you those words, I lift up the last words of that psalm, which say, "Establish the work of our hands that it may long endure." Think about, as you hear this psalm, the work of Judy Bederman's hands. You, her family, are the work of her hands. Countless people she taught and led and worked with and was friends with, and all the people whose lives she touched with everything she did. I'm honored and grateful to be counted among those who are the work of Judy's hands. 27 years ago, I moved to Chicago knowing about 4 people. And Eddie, it was you and Judy who welcomed me with open hands and arms, and Judy made sure I started teaching for her right away. Great and sad. Oh God, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world, from eternity to eternity, our God, you return us to dust. You decree, return, you mortals. For in your sight 1,000 years are as yesterday when it has passed, as a watch in the night. You engulf us in sleep. We are like grass that renews itself. At daybreak it flourishes anew. At dusk it withers and dries up. The span of our life is 80 years and 10, or given strength, 80 years. But the best of those years have trouble and sorrow. They pass by speedily, and we are in darkness. Teach us, therefore, to number our days, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. Turn to us, O God, show mercy to your servants. Satisfy us at daybreak with your steadfast love, that we may sing for joy all our days. Let your deeds be seen by your servants, your glory by their children. May your favor, O God, be upon us. Establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure. As we gather this morning with sadness, with gratitude, with a deep sense of loss, let us hold Judy's example as one who made her days count, who indeed grew a heart of wisdom. She numbered her days and made them count. And let us be inspired and challenged by the work of her hands as we live our days.
At the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. The rustling of the leaves, the beauty of autumn, we remember them. The opening of the buds, and the rebirth of spring, we remember them. the beginning of the year and when it ends. We remember Judy Bederman. She is now a part of us as we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. As long as we live, Judy too shall live. She is now a part of us as we remember her. Now I'd like to invite up children Eric, followed by Jill, who will share their memories.
As many of you know, in 2009, my mom was diagnosed with leukemia. She knew it was a serious disease. But she committed herself to what it would take to make the most of the time she had with us, the time she had left. That was her project, along with the endless help of my dad, getting her to all the appointments and the treatments she needed. And it paid off. She got 13 years more of life. Time to see her youngest grandchild born and to see her oldest grandchild get accepted to college. Time to take some interesting trips around the world with my dad, and time just to visit with friends in Highland Park. Time for simples like her grandson's bar mitzvah, and time for just playing cards with her friends. Time for special occasions, and time for just everyday. It was a rough journey, but it paid off. I always knew that my mom was very organized. She kept files on everything for running a household. She also kept a lot of notes around the house for things that need to be purchased, books that she wanted to read, and plans for the next occasion that was coming up. My parents' house is a scrapbook. There are memories saved from her college days at Northwestern, from my parents' wedding, from the birth of Jill and me, from when we were little kids, we were young adults, our weddings, and memories of all her grandchildren. There isn't a corner of the house that doesn't have her signature. Despite having a relatively small family, my mom and dad have a tremendous number of friends. And even before the days of email and free phone call, she kept up with an astounding number of people from her whole life. From her youth friends in Newark, Ohio, to Northwestern, from every chapter of life thereafter. Along with a lot of new friends she just met in the past few weeks. There are so many friends here today and watching online. From the time I left home for college until just a couple of weeks ago, always knew that for good reasons or bad. I could always call my mom. I know that nobody lives forever. But almost 40 years that I left for college, I knew that I could always give her a call, and she would have some idea or an answer for whatever I needed help. My mom was a very positive person and would want us to look forward to what will come in life. We know that there will be lots of simchas and milestones ahead. There will be birthdays and graduations and a bat mitzvah ahead in the immediate future. There will be marriages and great-grandchildren and lots of other things to look forward to in the more distant future. We know that you'll be with us, or will be with us for the big things and the small life. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate all the support we receive from near and far. I also want to read a reading from my mom's sister, Lois Cohen, who unfortunately couldn't be here, but I know she's watching online. And this is what she wrote. When I think of my sister Judy, I think of all the things she used to do for others, whether it was for family, friends, or just someone she met. She was very outgoing, liked to have someone for dinner or just. In spite of her illness, she never dwelt on it, but continued to move on. She will be greatly missed, and many will remember her and mention in speaking Judy used to. Keep her in your mind and in your heart. Love you. Thank you.
My mom was diagnosed with lung cancer 13 years ago. I remember vividly her telling me that she would live to see Casey and Eli's next birthday when they would be turning 3 and 5. Beyond that, it was uncertain, if not unlikely. Today, Casey is 18 and Eli is 16 years old. Between my mom's amazing spirit and drive to fight through her treatment, the incredible medical care she received from her oncologist, Dr. Judy Bederman, and of course my dad's unwavering support and care, we were all given the gift of time. Time for my mom was never squandered. I often thought of and referred to her as the Energizer Bunny. She was a busy woman with a calendar full of things to do. She had countless activities, which included helping me in Oak Park with my kids on Thursdays, playing cards, dining with friends, writers' theater, attending adult Northwestern classes, shopping, paying bills, planning for holidays, cooking, planting flowers, and traveling domestically and abroad to see as much as she could. And all the while she was busy doing these things in her life, which she enjoyed or simply just needed to do, she always had time for my phone calls. Our almost daily calls happened when I was driving in the morning to the school I worked at for 10 years, and then more recently to my client's home. We talked all through the pandemic as I went on long walks. We had important personal topics to discuss and trivial ones, like what are you making for dinner? They somehow all seemed to be of equal weight to me. It was not always what we discussed that mattered, but that connection, my touchstone. She grounded me just by being there. She always answered the phone with her high-pitched and energetic hello, even as her voice was failing. But I heard it the way I always heard it in my entire life. Cancer didn't change that for me. While my mom was busy living her life, the only thing that really got in her way was having to pause to go for scans, treatments, or doctor's appointments. But even with that being a drag, she loved her oncologist and always seemed disappointed when they actually had to talk about cancer rather than the books they both enjoyed or how their families were doing. My mom was never one to complain or ruminate about anything difficult, at least not outwardly. But she would tell me she was anxious about the next scan or that she was afraid her voice seemed to be getting worse. It was in those moments that I found I could be of support to her. I could offer back the same style of advice and caring which she always gave to me, just listening, being practical, doing what you can, and facing challenges with dignity. There were many times over the years when she had good news from her scans. I remember those calls so well. The cancer was shrinking, or there was no change. There were periods where she would not have to go as often. The excitement and relief in her voice was palpable. Of course it was. And then she was off and running, ready to continue to fill up her calendar, embrace life, and not waste her reinstated gift of time. My mom told Eric and me in early June that her lung cancer was growing again. Now it was different. She was older, and her doctor was unsure her body could sustain the types of treatments that could extend her life, extend her time. And what would that time be like? The meaning of time changes when the quality of time is in question and an ending point is predicted. She and my dad did all the research they needed to do, and when she came to the conclusion it was time to be done with treatments. We are deciding not to do anything. We think this is the right decision for me. Mom was both autonomous and a team player. Making this decision with my dad allowed for both. and once again thought about time. It was limited, but still there to be embraced. Time became different and unfamiliar over the last month or so. Lost was the rhythm to a day or a week. Attunement to time segments became important. As I watched my mom move through the difficult end stages of life, I found myself learning from her and admiring her more than ever. She remained true to herself, an optimist with a will to keep doing whatever she could. It came to the point when my mom's passion for reading had become too difficult. She said that she just couldn't concentrate anymore and asked that we return her library books. She noticed the sadness on my face. No one read books like my mom, and it wouldn't seem right to not see her latest good reads around the house. She looked at me and said, "I'm not giving up. I'll just make a new list later." I know that is what she wanted, and that is what she intended. One day, not much long after that, she said, "I'm waiting," then paused. "I'm waiting." I said, "Mom, what are you waiting for?" She said, "I'm waiting to feel better." I knew she meant it because then, just a few days after that, last Friday, after a hard night, I arrived to spend time with her in the afternoon. She was sitting in her bed with the TV on. She greeted me with energy, and I was happily surprised to see a glimpse of the Energizer Bunny back. She told me she was feeling more like herself today. Pain was gone, and she had more strength. This time she said, "Today is," and paused, Today is my recovery day." I knew what she meant. She was feeling good enough to focus on something else other than breathing and fighting pain. She instantly told me to get her phone and call her friend Karen Wander. They had one last conversation between two great friends. It was just what she wanted. A little while later, her longtime friend Fran Grossman stopped over for a quick visit. My mom was so happy to be feeling some strength that she proudly demonstrated to Fran how she could swing her legs up and onto the bed and back down again. It was her achievement, and why not feel proud about moving your body without help? But the most special part of the day was her ability to continue to feel good and enjoy a last family visit with Eric, Susan, and Mia. No one can brighten a day like her beautiful granddaughter, Mia. Mia sat sweetly with Grandma Judy in her recliner chair, chatting away while bringing more joy and love to my mom. It was one last visit, one last Kabbalat Shabbat. We brought candles, wine, and bread into the family room, and it will forever in my mind be the perfect ending to her recovery day. Time changed again after that. Time moved to closure, and now to memories of times together. I have been blessed by having so much extraordinary time with my mother. So glad you were my mother.
Such powerful, meaningful words. A few years ago, in fact, August 3rd, 2016, Ed and Judy, my wife, Ari, and I had dinner and went to a concert at Ravinia. I remember the concert so well because it featured one of my favorite musical pieces, Rhapsody in Blue, George Gershwin. If you've heard it, you know that it is a unique piece of music. It combines so many different melodies and rhythms, styles. It has an irresistible energy, a lightness and a seriousness, playful yet profound. You can't help but smile when you listen to it. Judy Bederman also had an irresistible energy, and she put a smile on all of our faces. And that's why we are all feeling such tremendous grief. Judy Bederman, as everyone here knows, was just a remarkable woman. She was full of Energizer bunny, as Jill put it. Even in the last few years, as she struggled, she was still so full of life. When I think of Judy, I think of an inviting presence, kind presence, a loving presence, the kind of person you could count on, the kind of person you could trust. Ed knows that I like to tell a story, oftentimes at funeral services, about two ships. It's based on a Jewish midrash, and many of you have probably heard it before, so I'm not going to tell it. But the lesson of that story is gratitude. It's gratitude for a life well lived. And I know it's not easy for us to feel gratitude right now. But as we approach Thanksgiving, I think we are all grateful for having Judy in our lives. This gratitude, we feel, is connected to our grief because we know how much love and kindness and caring and warmth she brought into the world. We are grateful for it, but we grieve because it's not continuing in a physical form. But her life has shaped so many of us. Her character, her words, her deeds live on in each of us. In this way, Judy resembles the biblical matriarch Sarah. In fact, as Ed probably knows, in this week's Torah portion is Chaye Sarah, which literally means the life of Sarah. But interestingly, the Torah portion opens with Sarah's death. Very, very unique formulation. And in fact, when the Torah tells us how long Sarah lived, it says she lived to 127 years, but then it says these were the days of Sarah's life, which is kind of an odd formulation. They could have just said she was 127 years old. Why did they say these were the days of her life? Well, the rabbis, the Jewish sages say that's because Sarah lived fully each and every day. Every day mattered. It wasn't a matter of years, it was a matter of days. She did not stop. She did not let the difficulties, the sorrows, the pains of life stop her. She was resilient. She did not complain. She remained the Judy we all loved. Judy was not only full of energy and kindness, she was also incredibly intelligent. She got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from Northwestern at a time when Northwestern had severe Jewish quotas. She read, as Jill said, voraciously. She handled the books when Ed ran several McDonald's. She ran adult programs at the JCC for more than 2 decades. She also cared deeply about her Judaism. Coming from a small town and a tight-knit community in Ohio, she embraced the Jewish life of Highland Park and Congregation Solel. She and Ed led the youth group for 10 years. She was actively involved all the time up until a few weeks ago. I just learned that she used to deliver Shabbat care packages to Soviet refuseniks in Chicago in the 90s for many years. I didn't even know about that program. She joined Jewish book clubs. She often came to Torah study. And she simply soaked up and contributed to our community in so many ways, and we can tell now by all the members of our congregation who are here. And as we all know, Judy was a wonderful mother and grandmother and wife. She and Ed enjoyed many years of marriage. They raised Eric and Jill and were simply ecstatic when their grandchildren came into the world. She was always there for them. sleepovers, babysitting, driving, competitions, all of that. She was a hands-on grandma in the most wonderful way. Now, there's so much more we can say, for everyone here has their memories. But as I think about the end of Judy's life, think about there's this wonderful story about the artist Renoir. We all know his paintings are at the Art Institute. And at the end of his life, he had really bad rheumatoid arthritis. His fingers were so painful that he needed an assistant to put the brush in his hands. He couldn't even stand up while painting, so he had a special chair made that so he could be lifted up and down to paint his canvas. And yet, in spite of all that pain, he continued to paint. He continued to create masterpieces. Eventually, one day, his disciple, all heard of, Matisse, asked him an obvious question. Why do you hurt yourself? Why do you go through so much to keep painting? And Renoir answered, the pain passes, but the beauty remains. The beauty of Judy's life remains in each of us. In Ed, Eric and Susan, in Jill and Jimmy, in Evan and Mia, and Casey and Eli, and Lois, Mark, and all of the many friends and family who are here with us at this moment. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May the memory of Judy Bederman endure among us as an everlasting blessing. God, you give us loved ones. You make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on the lonely way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you, the stricken look for comfort, sorrow laden for consolation. God, we see life through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures, soul endures, as you, O God, endure forever. I invite you to rise now as Cantor O'Brien chants the El Mole Rachamim for us.
El mole rachamim, shochein mamerami. Amitzei menucha nechona, כנפי השכינה, עם מקדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מוסיירים, לנשמות יקיריה של חולי עולמם, יסתיריה בסדר כנפו לעולמים, ויצרור מצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, וינוח בשלום עמי ישכבה, ונאמר Amen.
Eternal God, full of passion, grant perfect rest, your sheltering presence to our beloved wife, mother, grandmother, sister, loved one, friend, Judy Bederman, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and may her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. For you, the eternal God, are her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. I invite you to be seated. We actually have a closing piece of music, and this was something that a song Judy loved, a song you're probably familiar with, based on our Torah portion just from a few weeks ago. The song is called Lechi Lach, and Cantor O'Brien will chant the song for us, and then at the conclusion, I invite you to rise as family will exit the sanctuary.
Please feel free to join in this blessing. Lechi la, to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi la, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi la. Lechi la. And I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechi lach, to the place that I will show you. L'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, lechi lach, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing.